Peg is from Maryland and was born at Bethesda Naval Hospital and grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland, a suburb of Washington, D.C. Peg is a proud alumna of St. Mary's College of Maryland, the National Public Honors College, where she currently serves on the Board of Trustees. Peg has a heart of service, and people describe her as a giver. Speaking of service, she served for over 16 years in the Maryland Army National Guard, first as a company clerk for a medical unit, then as an Army medic, and finished her career as a medical logistics officer at the rank of captain. For 6 years, she was the primary caregiver as her mother gallantly battled Parkinson's disease. Peg will speak with us about the gifts that caregiving brings, as well as the challenges that caregivers face in the day-to-day struggles. She has some practical tips as well as some insights she will share about what she's learned in that role in her caregiving journey. So welcome, Peg, to our first Facebook Live.
Mary Elaine, it is a privilege and an honor, and I'm thrilled to be your inaugural guest speaker. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Peg is one of our founding members of the Caregiver Lifeline Community, and she will be a great asset to caregivers who join us in the future. So Peg, tell us about when you made the decision to be a caregiver for your mother. I know it must have been a little bit of a shift in working in as well as caregiving.
It definitely was. And I would say that it wasn't really a decision so much as the answer to a call. I just felt a tap on the shoulder saying, Peg, you need to do this. My mom and dad had built a lovely home in which to spend their aging years, retirement years, on the banks of a beautiful small body of water, like a lake, but it was a bay feeding into the Potomac River, and very scenic. And my dad died. They hadn't even lived there 5 years when Dad passed away of cancer. And but Mom always said, I want to just stay here. I don't want to go to a home. I don't want to be in any of my children's homes. I should say, she was the mother of 8 children. I'm the firstborn of her 8. She had 6 daughters and 2 sons. So I have 2 brothers and 5 sisters. And she didn't want to burden any of them by moving in and having them change their lifestyle and their routine just to accommodate her. And she loved the scenic view and the lovely layout of the home. When they built their home, they were very conscious of everything they needed on one level. They had another level, lower level for guest rooms and stuff, but everything on one level, the laundry, everything that would need for no matter what would happen to them. So that was very, a lot of foresight on their part. And she just kept saying over and over, I want to stay here. I want to stay put, she called it, and I don't want to be a burden. So when she received the diagnosis of Parkinson's disease, that's a disease that's debilitating. It never gets better. There's no cure. The muscles get worse and worse, and then that's the end. So, and you don't really die of Parkinson's, you die with it, but there is no cure. So I just felt a calling. And so it wasn't really a decision so much as I said, I just kept feeling this tap on the shoulder. You really should go. And I had the, I'm going to say luxury of being an entrepreneur, and I do marketing. And so wherever the internet is, I can serve my clients. And so I moved in with my mom and just started doing what she needed to have done. At first, she wasn't driving anymore, but she was fairly mobile. And then she needed a walker. And then as things progressed, she needed a rollator so she could sit down after a few steps. And, that got worse and worse. And then as time progressed, she was in a wheelchair. So as I said, it wasn't really a decision so much as a calling and answering the call. And I say it was a blessing because it was a gift both to her, but also a gift to me to spend that quality time and to give her wish, to make her wish come true, to be able to provide for her so she could stay put in the home she loved.
That's wonderful. It sends chills when you say it was a calling. I know sometimes there is an unexpected accident or emergency, and people have to step up right at that point in time. So I'm so glad that you made the decision. You had the flexibility to move in with your mom to make sure that she could stay in the place that your father had designed for themselves.
Right.
It was like a really idyllic place to be. So in this caregiving journey, how did you know what needed to be done? Because I know there's just no playbook for caregiving. Every caregiving journey is different. Yes, we have the burnout, the exhaustion and overwhelm, but how did you know what needed to be done?
A couple of different things. I had, in my Army career, I had been an Army medic. So I had the sort of first aid, advanced first aid, kind of all sorts of medical hands-on training for that. And she wasn't the kind of trauma patient, but you sort of pick up on medical tips and tricks and bandaging and care and lifting and those kinds of things. But I also had the luxury of being able to accompany her to her medical appointments with the doctors. And what was really helpful was the sessions we had with occupational therapists and physical therapists who, as limitations would appear and start compromising her abilities, they would teach us ways to move and navigate that would help me help her.
Mm-hmm.
And she would hear it sort of from the authority, and then she would know I was doing what they had said to do. And one thing about Parkinson's and some other diseases that are debilitating and aging is repetition is a beautiful thing. And if you do things for the person you're caring for the same way over and over and over, it works better than if you're trying to get them in bed from the opposite side or put them in the car differently than the way they're used to. All those things sort of throw a wrench into things. But since I was there so much of the time, or would train, we had long-term care. And so sometimes we would have 4, 5, 6 hours a day, some days the luxury of 8 hours a day of another person coming in. But before they ever were with mom alone, I sort of gave them the drill about how we get her in and out of the chair, how we get her on and off of the commode, all those kinds of things that made it so much easier for her, knowing that they were following protocols, so to speak. So it was being able to see what the therapists, occupational and physical therapists were recommending, and then doing the same thing over and over and over in a repetitive fashion that really made things better for her and for me.
Definitely. That's so critical, is to be involved with your loved one's care, because you both then know what to do and how to do it. And like you were saying with the occupational therapists and physical therapists. So I that is really true. I mean, you should be as consistent as possible. And I know it's a challenge when you have different caregivers coming in to do some of the care. So part of your talk tonight is, how did you infuse happiness and joy in this venture? Because I know we all struggle trying to even find joy or happiness when we're caregiving.
It is a struggle, and you have to approach it with, every day when you wake up, I'm going to make this the best day it possibly can be for where we are on this journey right now. And my mother loved music. And so when we were getting dressed in the morning, I would play some of her favorite songs, or we would make sure she either, depending on the weather, we would go outside into nature, or at least look out some of the beautiful scenic windows at the waterfront or the other side of the house was a farmland, and we would be looking and noticing and paying attention to the changes of the season, or the flock of birds flying around, or we had little rabbits in the springtime, and just all sorts. She had a butterfly bush, and in the summertime, June, July, and August, lots and lots of monarch butterflies would come, and just taking each and every day and the gift of the beauty and the joy, and trying to recall some of the things she loved in her former years and bringing those to the fore. Now, when my mom first was diagnosed and became somewhat debilitated, that we didn't have the pandemic at first. And so several times a week, we would have people come over and either have a cup of tea and a visit, or, enjoy a meal. Lunch was usually easier than dinner, depending on what my work schedule was, but she would tire at the dinner time, but she was more friendly at lunchtime. So we would try to do that once a week and those kinds of things. And when the pandemic hit, that was yet another sort of thorn in our side, because it took that gift away as well. But just trying to infuse happiness and joy in every single day. And I made a promise to her that every day we would laugh. Now, certainly lots of days we were crying as well, or we would laugh so hard we were trying to do what the therapist had said and it just wasn't working right, or feet would get twisted up or something. We would laugh so hard we would cry. But trying to tell her a joke or point out the funny things that were happening, and keeping a positive mental attitude. And another thing that helped me was taking a 10 or 15-minute break, just to go out myself and smell the fresh air, or just to go make a quick phone call to a friend to whom I could vent and say, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what's happening. Just sort of getting it off my chest and going back with a much happier attitude, so that she wouldn't see me struggle while she was struggling, and those kinds of things.
That is a really difficult thing to do, but I agree with you. My mother enjoyed planting rose bushes up and down the front walk, and gardening. And I would take her to like the botanic gardens and go to the rose section in particular, so that she could smell and just feel and things. So she may not have been able to really communicate, but you could tell by her facial and body language how she was feeling. Great suggestions. What recommendations would you give to someone who's starting on their caregiving journey and infusing joy and happiness initially, so that it becomes a routine?
I would say surround yourself with resources. And I have said to you, Mary Elaine, previously, I sure wish you were around when I was beginning my journey as a caregiver, because the resources you're providing are just such a gift to those who are in the trenches, really doing the hard work that it takes to be a caregiver with a joyful heart and give the person you're caring for the love and attention they need in a caring manner, and not getting overly frustrated. And, it is frustrating, but so make sure you have friends that you can call upon. Try and plan for some fun outings that you both would enjoy. Stay connected with friends. And even in this pandemic time, when we can't meet in person or without a lot of protocols and things, phone visits, or Mom didn't really like FaceTime, but when I introduced her to Zoom and there were just 2 or 3 people on the screens, she really started to like that when we couldn't get together in person, and then see the value of long distance, where you could actually see somebody and not just talk on the phone. But do things for yourself, because self-care is important, so that you can be ready for whatever presents itself. And then the other thing I would recommend is stay well nourished yourself, but also prepare good, healthy meals for the person you're caring for. And, all the things we all know we're supposed to do, stay hydrated and stay, just keeping your positive mental attitude will reflect on that person, and try to see the humor in challenges and in everyday life. Those would be my suggestions.
great suggestions. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's just really important to really celebrate the person, no matter where they are in their journey, because it's must be just as frustrating and challenging for the person that you're caring for. Debbie has a question. During the long-term caregiving for your mom, did you ever feel your heart harden or have any lack of emotional feelings?
I would say there were times when I was feeling about to lose my wit, or just, oh my gosh, how much more. But I utilize the kinds of skills that I'm saying to do. Get out, get a breath of fresh air, make sure you stay hydrated yourself. It wasn't so much emotional feelings towards my mother so much. I had a couple of challenges with some siblings. They would come and, why does it always have to be your way? These rules, I'm sick and tired of the rules. And I would explain they're not my rules. It's what the occupational therapist said, or what the doctor said to do, or what mom's used to doing one way. And if you change it, it takes a week or more to get her back on her routine, those kinds of things. But I would try very hard not to get, using your words, hardening of my heart, but just focusing on the fact that my goal was to make my mother comfortable, happy, and remain as healthy as possible through this challenge. And so, yes, there are times when you just feel so frustrated. And, the saying, the Lord's not going to give you more than you can handle. But lots of days I was saying, come on, Lord, you're overestimating my abilities and those kinds of things. But then even if I shared that with Mom, we would chuckle and, whatever. Trying to find the humor in everything. And if you keep your focus on the goal of keeping them happy, you yourself can get, turn things around so that you can see the bright side of things. That would be my recommendation. Great question, Debbie. Thank you.
Yes, please put any questions that you may have. Debbie says thank you. I know that we were talking about somebody starting on their caregiving journey, and this might continue what Debbie might have or still be feeling. So when you've done this for many years, like you, how do you maintain that balance, I guess, taking care of yourself and taking care of your mom? And knowing it's getting harder and harder, or what did you find helpful for you?
That's a great question. It can be a challenge and a struggle. And I'm going to keep going back to having a positive mental attitude and maintaining the thought process of the real reason you're doing this. My reason was to keep my mother at home the way she wanted to be kept at home, and to, make her as happy as each day could possibly be. And like I said earlier, have friends that you can talk to that know you, love you, and no matter what you say, they're going to be in your corner. I always picked a song of the week or a song of the month that would just sort of get me in a good mood. And if I was just reaching that stress point, I'd either get Mom in a safe place or have her in a wheelchair watching the TV while I was cooking dinner or something. I'd put everything on low and I'd just go and play that song once or twice and then come back with a little lilt in my step and, feeling happier. Sometimes you just need to take that deep breath and just say, this is the best I can do. Help me do better. And then, like I said, a little song would help me if you're not musically inclined. Get a breath of fresh air. Do something that you like. Read 2 or 3 pages in the novel you're reading. Do whatever that's going to distract you for 5 minutes that will help you recharge and go back to the mission at hand.
I love your idea of mission. I think that's so wonderful, because you were doing that in the Army National Guard, but it was your mission with your mother as well. I agree with you. I think mindset has a lot to do with it. And I know sometimes, I guess I had to just accept my parent for who they were at any particular point in time and realize that it would be to our benefit if I could, really accept them for who they are. And yes, they could be stubborn and they may not want to do what you ask, but knowing that there is a reason behind that, I think that's really important to D.G. Herman as well. So for example, I had one of my speakers at my caregiver conference who was, I guess this woman had Alzheimer's, and she was staying with her daughter and husband. And the daughter was upset because the mother would never sit down at dinner. Well, her mother was a night charge nurse. So she felt it was her responsibility to, take care of all the patients and making sure everything was going well. So once they put her dinner, like in the kitchen on a counter where she could just eat when she felt like she had time to do it because she was looking for caring for patients, that really was a game changer in that situation, because yes, I mean, you have to look at what your loved one had done in the past and realize they may be reacting to something that you said because they're in a different place. And that's where what they're remembering, and that's where they go back to. So any other thoughts about changing mindset? I agree with you. Going out, taking a breath, changing your scenery. If any of the attendees could just put in more questions or any ideas that might help others, please feel free to do that.
Well, while we're waiting for questions to come into the chat, I'll respond to what you just said. And it's so important to meet our care recipient where they are. So I'm glad that in the scenario you described, Mary Elaine, that they were able to figure out where she was mentally. And as a charge nurse, she probably never got to sit down and eat. So as soon as they realized that and made the small minor changes to let her eat as she went, in her mind on her shift doing the work, that she could grab a bite as she had the time. So meeting them where they are and trying to put ourselves in their shoes and see what they're envisioning instead of forcing our ideas on them, trying to meet them where they are and, figure out ways that we can all adapt to what's best for them in the long run. That's beautiful.
Marilyn said that she likes the idea of using music as a form of therapy for both the patient and the caregiver. Would you like to continue and respond to that?
Sure, I will. So when you think of Parkinson's, many people think of tremors, and that's true for lots of people with the affliction of Parkinson's. My mother did not have the tremors. She had the weakness on one side of her body. And as time went on, she developed the dysphagia, which, if you remember, George Herbert Walker Bush had the trouble speaking and swallowing and all that. So that was my mother's bigger challenge for us. I could never feed her rice. I had to be real careful with what she wasn't supposed to drink out of a straw because it could hit the part in the back of the throat that would start her coughing, and she could aspirate, and just all these other challenges that you become aware of that you would never think of. But she was a beautiful singer and had harmonies that were just melodic, and she loved to sing. And after one of her mini strokes, it impacted her throat so much that she couldn't sing anymore. And that was a real cross for her to bear, and for me as well. But she still loved listening to music, and you would sort of see her forming the harmony in her head, even though she couldn't voice it. and we both loved music. And so different mornings of the week, as we're getting her dressed, I'd say, you know, who do you want to listen to today? James Taylor, Glenn Campbell, Patsy Cline. You know, we'd have a different artist for the day, and we would just play 6 or 8 songs. And by the time those songs were over, she'd be dressed and ready to go to breakfast. So I was mentioning this to a cousin of mine whose mother was going through a health challenge. And I said, why don't you put some music on? And she said, I don't think my father would like that. And I was reminded how blessed we were that it was just my mom and me and not a spouse in the house kind of thing. And, but yeah, to Marilyn's point, music is a great gift. So many people do appreciate music. And even if it's just a distraction, you're not in it and singing along or humming along or tapping your foot, but just hearing something different in the background makes it a gift in itself. And as I said, my mother was a gifted musician and loved to sing. And so we used it a lot throughout the day, different times of the day. We would play a song while she was taking her medicine. And, you know, the older they get, the more pills they have. And we'd say, okay, 16 pills at breakfast, right?
Right.
All of that. We'd play a song, and then by the time the song was over, she'd be finished with them all.
I really appreciate you talking about that. And Marilyn, it resonated with Marilyn as well. I think that's important. I know for my father, he had some memory issues, but he so enjoyed going out to these concerts at different churches in the area, different venues. It was hard, I think, for him to realize that he couldn't do those things during the summer. So he would always look forward to going to hear different performances. And, you know, I think that, and we were able to do that with a friend and her mother. So it made it really enjoyable. So any way that you can do what your loved one, like your mom with music, can do for that person is really incredible, because I enjoyed those performances with the 4 of us. So I really agree with you in terms of using any modality.
Well, and it does a couple of things, Mary Elaine, because it transports whoever's participating to a different place and time. But then for another week or 2 or 3, you say, remember that time last Friday night when we went to the concert? Wasn't that great? And you can just relive it again in the moment and bring a smile to their face with a happy memory. And another thing is get out photo albums and have them tell the story of, you know, I would pull out my mother's wedding album, and she would always have funny stories about all her bridesmaids, or she would have, you know, stories about some of the groomsmen of my father's. And she said, I never liked him, or, you know, just kind of thing, or photos of when all of us were little babies. And she would talk about, like, I was 5 years old when my, one of my sisters was born, and I was going off to kindergarten, and the little baby was a week old. And so mom had envisioned walking me to kindergarten, but now she couldn't walk me to kindergarten because, you know, she had this newborn and 4 others. When I was starting kindergarten, there were already 5 of us. So just having her talk about way back then was always a fun hour-long activity in an afternoon where we didn't have a doctor's appointment or something. Just so pull out the photo albums, get them talking about things in the past, describing events from years ago. Sometimes it's the current memory that's not so fresh, but the long ago memories are like it was yesterday for them.
Oh, definitely. I agree. As a speech pathologist, when I was working with a patient with a memory disorder, I would do something similar. I would do like a life biography for them. So we would start when they were, where they were born, where, who their parents were, what they were like, as an elementary student, high school student, young adult, when they got married and things like that. And I think the more that, like you said, that you can repeat it and ask questions while you're going over like a specific time period, really helps with those memories.
For sure.
And
Yeah,
and
definitely.
you learn more about the person themselves by doing that.
Right.
Are there any closing thoughts that you have for our audience today, Peg?
I think I would just close with some of the highlights of what we've already talked about. Try and bring beauty, joy, and laughter in every single day. Keep your mental attitude high so that it reflects to them and they'll be cheerful as well. The importance of healthy meals, good nutrition, good hydration, good night's sleep, if that's possible. Sometimes I know it isn't. And have an outlet, have somebody you can call, have a favorite song or a book you're reading that you can get away for 5 minutes and just take a deep breath and recharge so that you can go back into a challenging situation. And I think those are most of the things that, and keep the goal of making the person you're responsible for happy and engaged as long as they can. And if you're cheerful, they'll be more cheerful, and those kinds of tips.
Thank you very much for those words of wisdom. Like I said, you have to look at the person that you're caring for and really bring those experiences into when you're caregiving for them. So I really appreciate you taking time tonight and talking about your caregiving journey. Are there any other questions for any of the attendees tonight? Peg is here. She's willing to answer any questions that you may have.
So Mary Elaine, tell me who's in our audience. Are these mostly people caring for spouses, caring for their parents, caring for other family members? Who's the demographics of who I'm speaking with? I should have asked that earlier.
Well, that's a good question. I know Marilyn is taking care of a 90-year-old friend.
Well, good for you, Marilyn. Thank you for your great gift.
Really, I mean, caregivers are so underappreciated, and nobody really knows what we do. Debbie, David, or Jerry Ann, if you can let us know who you are taking care of, we would like to know. Thank you. Okay, Debbie, you're caring for your 83 and 82-year-old parents, but don't live with them. Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you, Debbie, for the gift you're giving to them.
Most definitely. I understand a little bit of what you're talking about, Debbie, because when my father was alive, I was working out of town and I was trying to coordinate home caregivers from a distance. So, and that made it a bit of a challenge as well. So thank you for what you're doing.
And let me just chime in while we're waiting for more questions and comments to come in. It's so important to be the advocate.
Oh,
when you go to a doctor's appointment or you go to a, physical therapy, occupational therapy, whatever, understand before you get there what concerns and questions your person may have, because they may be shy, they may feel like they don't have the confidence to ask the questions themselves. But I know for myself, they sure appreciate you asking what they want to know and what they want to leave with. So I would always, even like the day of the doctor's appointment, we'd be getting dressed. I'd say, now, today's the day we're going to the speech therapist. what kinds of things. Since the last time we were there, we've had this and this issue, but some other things have been really good. What do you want to share with the caregiver? And she would appreciate me recapping how things were from the 2 or 3 weeks ago since we were there before. But also she would voice some questions to me that she probably would have been intimidated asking, but was glad that I would ask. And so I would encourage all of you to be an advocate for them with the medical authority. You know, my mom was born in an age where whatever the doctor said was gospel truth, you never question. I know when my dad was sick, he had liver cancer, and the doctor was giving him Tylenol 3. And I said, isn't Tylenol hard on the liver? And my mother goes, why would you ask that? And I'm like, because I did a legal case in court about how horrible Tylenol is on the liver, and there are other things that they could be given, Dad, that won't be as damaging. And she was, I never would have thought of that, but she's the doctor, she should know. So, you know, sometimes they're intimidated for different reasons. It's their culture, it's the way they were brought up, it's their age, demographic, whatever. But I'm pulling my hair out because Mom can't be left at home alone. Dad gets frustrated really easily. Mom is mostly nonverbal due to a major stroke 6 years ago. I take Dad to his cardiology visits, and my sister takes him to the kidney. Wow. Dad has CHF and stage 5 kidney failure. Wow, you do have your hands full. I'm glad your sister's helping in ways that she can to help bear the burden and share the load. Wow.
Do you, Debbie, I know that's pretty, that's quite the challenge. What do you do when your father is not in the house or goes out for an appointment? How do you take care of Mom in that situation? Do you know? I guess I should ask. Do you know when she is being left alone and what you can do about it? Okay. Poor sisters, but yes.
Well, and Jerry Ann said,
yes,
they're caring for their 90-year-old mother living in the home she grew up in. Wow, I'll bet that's a little bit of a challenge, because I know if I were in the home I grew up in, I might have flashbacks to when I was young too. I don't know. God love you. God love each and every one of you. I'm so glad you're connected with Mary Elaine, because this is a resource that I sure would have valued and benefited from. 4 of us sisters, mainly the one who helps, and I work full time. There may be some community resources that could have somebody come and sit with the house, or I don't know if you have a church community or a neighbor, or maybe there's a nursing school or a CNA school nearby that might have some volunteers that would want to come and sit for an hour or 2 with your mom and sort of give you respite help while well, it's not really respite because you're taking your dad to medical appointments while she needs to be at home, but.
okay. Well,
good, I'm glad that's helpful. Never thought of that. So there may be a community college or places where people that want to be certified nurse assistants want training, and they may get extra credit for doing some community service, and that might be a possibility.
Right. Another thing that you mentioned, Peg, is that respite care. So there are like home care agencies that could send someone in to give you a break. I know from my mother, she went to adult daycare twice a week just to be around her peers. And that gave my father and our caregivers some downtime as well. So there are places like the Gerontological Society in your area. There's the Area Agency of Aging. That is another place that you can ask for some support. You may want to call like the Kidney Association that could help you find some other resources specifically for your father. So all of those could be starting places. If you need more help, just, email me and I'll be glad to answer them. And if you let me know what state and county you're in, that would be helpful as well.
Sometimes you don't have to pay. Sometimes there are community resources that if they're on Medicare or Medicaid, but sometimes just the county itself knows that, they're there to serve the community. And so it may be no charge to you. So it's worth exploring for sure. Kidney transplant with intermittent primary care doctor comes to the house. Wow, that's a gift. That's a gift, Jerry Ann, to have your primary care come to the house. That's like the good old days, right? Chesterfield County, Virginia. Okay.
Okay.
If I were flying in to see you, what airport would that be near? Is that Richmond? Gotcha. Okay.
I could definitely do some research for you, Debbie, Jerry Ann.
Well, and
with the dementia part, I mean, sometimes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So sometimes the Alzheimer's Association in your state can provide you with some resources as well. Okay, you live in Tampa. Okay.
Well, and as I said, stay connected to Mary Elaine, and if at all possible, join her community, because this is such a valued resource I wish I had. And posted on Facebook for a babysitter, 2 people I know could help. $15 an hour.
That can be a real challenge. I mean, the paying for services.
Well, and maybe a real heart-to-heart with your other siblings that aren't as close. They probably want to do something, but don't know what to do. Maybe you could set up a GoFundMe account or something like that, telling them what it would be used for. This is the dilemma we're in. We got to take dad here. We got to do this with mom. We have this and that. There's 2 of us working hard. You all are away. If you could do X, Y, Z. I don't know how your relationship is with siblings and those kinds of things, but maybe friends, former neighbors, and current neighbors, current church friends, people could, people want to help and they just don't know how. That could certainly be a way.
Great
But
point.
what I started to say is the resources that Mary Elaine is providing, I wish I had. I did find some solace in several different caregiving Facebook groups where people just posted and then other people would say, oh, I know exactly how you feel. I felt the same way. This is what I did, kind of thing. And I'm still involved with a couple of those because I feel some of my comments help those that are still caring or have recently lost someone. And my mom's been gone a little over a year now. So I'm a little further along in my grief journey, but helping them who just lost a parent a month or 2 ago, or their husband or wife, whatever the situation is. Just sometimes just having a voice and being heard is important. So if you can stay in touch with Mary Elaine, and if you can join the community, I recommend you do so.
Thank you very much, Peg.
You are so welcome.
I'm looking forward to my goal with the Caregiver Lifeline Community is just to help people such as yourself with the resources that you would need. And so I would value you would have not only the community of caregivers in the community, but also the experts, the other members of the community that could help as well. And I'm always open to different, having people come in, giving suggestions on how to make it better, because I would like to have it, all the resources in one place so that it makes it easier for you to get the services and the help that you need. So open to suggestions. And yes, Jerry Ann, I am going to think about how to get in touch. We're doing some changes to the website.
And Mary Elaine, I know you have my acoustic writing that I did.
Yes.
If you wish to share that with these folks that are caregivers themselves, I'm happy for you to share that with them. It was one of the things I did sort of as cathartic energy, as I couldn't sleep for a period of about 3 weeks in a trying month. And, many people have told me it's been helpful to them. So I'm happy if you want to share it with any of your community whenever and wherever it makes sense to.
Great. So any input, I'm looking to have some former and current caregivers help me with an advisory committee. So yes, your input is so valuable. I want to honor you because I know it is not recognized and nobody understands what a caregiver goes through when they're doing their journey with their loved one. And I just want to thank all of you for being here tonight, and please keep in touch. Let me know how else I can best help you. And I look forward to talking with you soon. Thank you.